to Alpha Star Radio. I am your host, Linda. I have a great show in store for you tonight. We are going to jump right in here. I will be having Dr. Rob and Janelle Alex. They're Ph.D.s, and they are the co-founders of In Business and Love, and they teach through private coaching and programs like Intimate Wealth, Money Magic, 90-day programs, the 33 days to unleash your sacred and sexy power animals, and transcendent lovemaking. They help ordinary couples create extraordinary relationships and businesses. I don't know what it is. I'm on a sex kick this month, so I apologize. But my listeners out there, do not be shy. Ask questions. Sex is a perfectly natural human need, even in the animal world. So don't be shy. Dr. Janelle is also called the Barefoot Soul Business Mentor. She uses a blend of movement, spiritual connections, consciousness, and awareness. Let's see. She does power animals with business tools and has spent the past 24 years helping others connect to their creative energy. Now her husband, Dr. Rob, is known as the guru of getting it on, or as she calls him, Mr. Frisky. As Janelle has said, this is what she calls him. And in 2009, he started writing Sexy Challenges, which are sacred and sensual scenarios for lovers. And after his spiritual awakening in 2010, he happened to do a transcendent lovemaking experience that brought him more spiritual perspective into his work. This man teaches couples, men and couples, on how to use ancient wisdom to deepen their intimacy.
Oh, no.
I'm still there.
No. There goes the internet. No.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that. Skype just froze. I apologize.
That's okay. I know it's happening. Am I live at all?
Yes, you're live. Sorry about that. You're back. Everything's good.
Okay. Anyway, sorry about the tech problems. We are experiencing solar flares right now. And I've talked to a couple other people in broadcasting from other radio stations that are having the exact same problem, even in terrestrial radio right now. So, of course, it always happens to me. I'm a walking solar flare. Anyway, I think we have Dr. Janelle on. Dr. Janelle?
Yes, that's me and Rob.
Hi, Rob. Welcome to Alpha Star Radio. I'm so delighted to have you two on with me tonight.
Well, the pleasure is all ours.
Wonderful. Well, I gave you guys a little intro, but why don't the both of you explain to my listeners a little bit about what you guys do and how you help couples and people to have a better sex life, I guess?
Well, this has been a passion of mine for a long time. Just wanting to desire, I grew up, and my parents worked together their whole life, and it wasn't that they didn't love each other, but they were more along the lines of business partners than, a happy couple, I would say. They treated us kids well and everything, but, there wasn't that love and passion that I so desired and I wanted to have in my life. I was married before Janelle, I was married to someone else, and, I spent 10 years, and the relationship never got to the point where I wanted it to get to, and I was disappointed in that. And so, the stars found me and blessed me with the ability to find Janelle out there, and it just opened my world to what a relationship should be. And now we've had our rocky times and everything too, but we have constantly been striving and making our relationship better and better. All kinds of troubles that we've had, which include, filing of a bankruptcy and losing our businesses and our house. And
no, to clarify, mine was sold. I sold it prior to we lost the one that we had together.
But,
we had been very, very successful, and then, we hit the economic crisis, and we have that big, horrible, bad story that a lot of people in our country have. Before some of that hit, Rob had begun to start to create what you call sexy challenges, which they're sacred and sensual scenarios for lovers, committed lovers, and they're really cool. I think there's 80 some of them available on iTunes. So they're like little ebooks, and there's a big one of them. It's got the first 50 available, even in the print version. But we were working all that, and I helped him write some of those, or I edit all of those, and but I was in graduate school for transpersonal psychology, which is like spiritual psychology.
Wow, cool.
So in doing all of that, I very quickly, which, it was all about spirituality. It wasn't about human sexuality, but I came across an article on transcendent sex. And as you said in the introduction, I call Rob Mr. Frisky. He's a very sensual and sexual man. And he has a much higher sex drive than I do, and we tell that often. And so we're not shy about telling, it's like, hey, ladies, I get it when you're like, oh, my God, leave me alone. I get it. And other times it's like, hey, that's awesome. He really wants to be with me a lot.
Right.
So I gave him this article, and because of where we grew up, in the Midwest, in central Indiana, it was a very rigidly Christian mentality there. And, I'm very, very open spiritually, very connected spiritually. And so he was like, hey, I'm curious, because he wasn't interested in spirituality at all until he read the article and said, oh, wow, this could happen during lovemaking. I want to know if that could happen for me. And lo and behold, once he started paying attention, Rob gets visions at the point of orgasm.
Oh,
and then
wow.
And so when he actually then, just a few weeks after it happened the first time, when he saw that actual image in real life, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, waking reality, he was like, oh my gosh. And there's a big story behind how it came about and so forth, but it was a very powerful moment. And I consider that to be his spiritual awakening at that particular moment. And then that's when he has said many times that he knew that he had a very different journey to help couples and to open couples' minds and ideas to, wow, sexual energy is exceptionally powerful and it can transform your life.
Wow, now did this happen when I read the intro in 2010, the spiritual awakening? Is that when it all manifested?
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yep, I had some things, but yeah. And the cool part is, and I don't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry, but the cool thing, because for Rob, that's how he connects typically and gets his, whatever you want to call it, but his information, that comes through, or a spirit guide that comes to us. I met him, if you will, first, and then I kind of introduced him to Rob, and then we said, oh, he's here for us. And but he comes through and the psychologist in me comes out, and I say it's during the dream state. My husband's like, no, it's a visitation.
It is not a dream state.
I didn't say it's a dream, but we just look at the wording of the terminology a little differently. But it's during that time, but then otherwise it's, like I said, he gets those visions and has gotten one every single time we've been together for the last 4 years now. Or, well, it's been over because it's July, so whatever. But he gets that vision at the point of orgasm. So, and I can get that too, but I can get information, if you will, just sitting here. So I have a very different connection for whatever reason. So anyway, that being said, I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm fascinated that he can do that.
So would this be considered on the order of like tantric sex, or is that more of a Indian mantra?
That is more of an Indian. There are several traditions and things that we like out of the tantric sex practice, but there's several that we don't agree with either. So we kind of, and we encourage couples to do this also, kind of forged our own system of how we enjoy that and how we express ourselves during that and how we honor that. And
well, there are principles from Tantra or Tantra within what we practice and what we teach, but there's principles, that are more Wiccan based. There's sex magic. There's different things that, for me, I do relate to a lot of Buddhist principles as well. So see, it just kind of all merges together.
Yeah, well, the way we look at it is we would experience something and we take from it what resonates with us and what feels good to us, and we put that into our own practice. It might be just a small bit of a tradition or belief or something that we really resonate with, and we bring that into our practice. And so we're constantly evolving and forming our practice, and it just grows as we go along.
Right.
I have a question. I was looking at your website. I actually signed up for the free chapter, and I'm looking forward to purchasing the book on payday. And it talks about the 5 keys to discover your sacred and sexy power animal. That sounds fascinating. Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, we've just recently developed a program that has to do with sacred and sexy power animals. So, and of course, if you study power animals, there are tons of animals you could choose from. We opted to pull in 12 and use 12 different animals. Actually, 12 just kind of came through to me when we were doing it, so there's not really a particular reason behind it. It's not like, ooh, the zodiac or anything like that. But within the 12, then we have like an assessment or a little quiz that we have our clients, or actually it's available for free for people to take and discover what those top animals show up to be for them, as well as what their last one is. So I like to explain that our view, or at least my view, is that power animals and animal energy, your own personal animal energy, and then animal spirit guides are not necessarily all the same thing. They can show up all as the same at the same time in your life, but they can also be 3 different things. So, but when you know what your animal energy is, I'm just going to kind of go that direction with it for a moment. If you know what your animal energy is, you have a much better understanding of how you show up in the world, how you show up with your partner, how you react to him or her, how you react to your children or your business partners or your coworkers or employees or employers, whatever the case may be. So understanding that, and there's tons of different exercises that we can implement and really be transformational in discovering those deeper aspects of you and who you are. Does that explain it a little bit to you?
Absolutely. Actually, the number 12 is, in numerology, a 1 and a 2 is a 3, and that is a very metaphysical number. So there are no accidents.
The 3 is huge for us. So that's probably why it came through.
There you go. Well, now on to my next question. It says here you have these keys to thrive, not just survive in your relationship and your business. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, Rob, do you want to share probably the first big thing that we always tell people?
one of the big things is, is giving up the need to be right. Letting go of that. We have to have a winner and a loser in every argument. That that one way has to be the only way you do things. Because and this took us a long time to get to this point, but what is right for Janelle might not be right for me. And what she believes and is truth for her might not be the truth for me. And when you give up that need to have a winner and loser in every argument and for one of you to be right, one of you to be wrong, it opens you up to just, experience what you need to experience and to be, and then it takes all that pressure off of, okay, I've got to be right.
Which is a common thing. People, often they that's what that argument comes from. I'm right and you're wrong. But if you can take just a moment to see it from your partner's perspective, you don't have to change your mind, but just to see it, that is huge because your partner's like, holy cow, you're willing to even see it from my point of view? Okay. That's amazing, and it's not easy to do.
Yeah, it's not.
Another big one is to truly be best friends with your partner. And because that friendship is so key. Because when you're friends, you can laugh and have fun and still play and have play in your life, in all of your life, not just in your sexual life, which is an important place to be able to laugh too, as well as, other stuff. But to just have that play in your life, because laughter is actually, I'm going to share this, actually, the dissertation that Rob did to earn his Ph.D. was a correlation between laughter and orgasm. Because it's that, when you have those huge belly laughs and you're just that uncontrollable laughter, there's this big similarity between that and orgasm. And of course, this is a big paper that he put together, but a lot of research. But it's a fun, interesting, fascinating concept.
It really was.
It was, yeah. I got to edit all of it, so it's fun. And I think really probably, I would say the third big thing, the third key that we like to share is it really does go into knowing your, that animal energy as well as your money personality. Kind of, it all gets wrapped together there because there's a big impact there. And, two of the big things that couples fight about, or if they go in and file for divorce, two of the big things that cause that are their sex lives and their money. And fights or unhappiness around that in some way. So when you know that and understand that, you have got a much better shot at keeping your relationship strong and surviving and thriving.
Absolutely. I think, if more people maybe paid attention to you guys a little more, there'd be a lot less breakups and divorces. I noticed that people don't want to put in the time. You know what I mean? In any relationship, if you want it to work, it takes effort. It takes, it's give and take. And I notice people don't really want to put in the time sometimes to do that.
Well, what comes to me as you say that is that, and this is something that I say this all the time, we have to be able to know who we are, our individual selves. We have to be willing to go deep for ourselves and know who in the heck we are. Because if I don't know who I am and if I don't love me, then I can't really know who my partner is or really give love to him. Because you can't give away what you don't have. So if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love someone else very much either. So
I say that all the time to my clients when I do astrology readings. If you can't love yourself first, how could you love someone else?
Exactly. And it's I don't know what you see, but when I say that, people are like, what? Put the brakes on, and it really shocks people, and they go, oh. Yeah, it really makes people think. At least that's what I've encountered. So I think that's huge to be able to be willing to grow and expand yourself. Because if you say, oh, this isn't working and it's all his or her fault, and you dump that relationship, well, you're just going to take your junk into the next one, and it's still your stuff, ultimately, because you can only change you. You can't change your partner.
Mm-hmm. Emotional baggage is what they get from one relationship to another, but in reality, it was that person's baggage, and they're bringing it into another relationship that's going to go awry, probably.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense to me. Well, my chat room's going crazy. They're having a good time in there, and they're really enjoying themselves so much. I just want to throw out your website, and I want to make sure I have this correct. It's www.inbusinessandinlove.com.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
All right. I just posted that in the chat room, and I also wanted to ask, you talk about 5 keys to thriving, not just surviving. Can we go over that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, really, those 5 have to do with being, like we said, be best friends with your partner. And I talked a little bit about, the money personality, and then, and kind of going hand in hand with that one is having joint financial goals, so that you guys, the 2 of you, have an idea of what it is you want. Whether it's if you have a business together, which our most recent book is focused on that, but, or it's just what your career paths are. Do you want to own a home in Colorado? Do you want to own a home at all? Do you want, what are your career goals? What are your life goals that are going to be directly affected by your money?
And you've got to see your partner as a peer, too, and not just, that you're in charge or that there has to be a big cheese in your relationship.
Right.
You're both working at this together, so you can't say, you can't belittle your partner. That's never good anyhow. But, you have to think of them on the same level as you, and that you guys are. You're very equal. One of you might have better, stronger talents in one thing, and another, the other has stronger talents in another, but you need to combine those and use the best that you can.
And when it comes to that, I mean, whether you are, well, I'm going to back up just for a second here, because I am very adamant that if you are in a committed relationship, then you actually are in business together, because it's the business of life. So, there's things, there's household things that need to be dealt with. Just handling all the budget for your household, handling the bills. If you have kids, or maybe it's pets, children, there's things that you have to do and get places here and there and handle a schedule, and, all those things come into play, and it's very important. Or if you're planning a vacation, or, my parents just came and visited, I can't speak today, and drove across the country to come visit us in Colorado, and they were in our house for a week, and that can be just interesting for a family. You get extra people and another dog and so forth. So there's these things that come into play, and so when you look at each other and go, okay, honey, you handle this better than I do, so you go with it. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to trust you to whatever that might be. Make the plans of how we're going to drive across the country, or whatever it is. And then the other partner, handles the other piece of it. I could rattle off so many examples, but it's that idea of really saying, okay, let's do this together as partners, and I am going to treat you as an equal. I know you're intelligent, and I love you, and so I trust you. And that's a big key. And then that 5th one is really what we talked about there a few minutes ago, too, with the animal energy. And knowing what your animal energy is, or your sexual energy, your creative energy. It's really all one and the same.
So in your book, will people be able to find out what their animal energy is, or do they? I mean, I found out mine through, I have a lot of Native American influence, and I married into a Native American family, so I knew for many years what my animal totem or influence was.
Uh-huh.
Do you talk about that in the book, on how people can identify that?
We don't in that particular book, because the focus of that one is what popped into my head this last winter was to write, about business partners that are married, or as a couple anyway. So we talk about, we just kind of touch on it. We don't go in depth on that.
Okay. Just, I had to ask,
Okay, that's kind of, on the list of things to do. But we've got some new teachings and new courses that we're doing and putting out that focus on that, but they're not in the book.
Right.
Okay, well, that's okay too. Now, is this your only book, or do you have others?
Oh my gosh, no, I don't know. I've lost count. We have.
You do have others, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have Collaborate with Your Soul, which is what I was talking about a while ago, about knowing yourself. So that one's out there, and then there's the compilation of the first 50 sexy challenges. I don't know, there's others, but those are like probably the 3 big print books.
And they can find these on the website, right? So
Yeah, they're on Amazon as well, of course, and iTunes. I think they're everything on iTunes. I don't know, I'm sorry. Everything's available on iTunes if you do it as an iBook as well.
Okay, I'm going to type that in right now for them. Amazon and iTunes.
And I think most everything's on Barnes & Noble as well. So, it's pretty much everywhere.
Well, that's good. Now, you talk about, and this is a biggie, in the line of work I do, I do a lot of love charts because I'm an astrologer, and I've had people tell me we're no longer together. This person was terrible with money. It seems like 50% of divorce right now in this country stems from financial issues. Would you agree with that? Because the next question is 3 powerful ways to clear money clutter.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge one. And, as Rob shared there off the top of the interview here tonight, we obviously faced a huge financial situation in our coupleship, if you will. Lost a business, lived in the garage for 2 years. Like I said, we have the horror story. And now we live, you can see Pikes Peak from our yard. So, I mean, we've made it through. We've come out on the other end, I guess you could say.
I think a lot of people take the money piece as an easy way out and just say, okay, we can't do it because we can't get our financial life together. Mm-hmm. And they just say, okay, we're just chucking it in. We're going to try to start over. When, there is some, there's some thought process that should go into that as to, okay, why do we have money issues? I mean, because it's not just one person or the other. There's, somebody is allowing somebody to have money problems if you're having it in a relationship. So there's a balance that needs to be in place there. If you look back in our society, many years ago, you didn't have that option. I'm thinking about the pioneers in the early American times, where, their family unit was their survival unit. And it wasn't a question of, just chuck it all and start over. That wasn't an option. And, they had to stick it out, and they had to be partners. And a lot of them came out better for it. Now, in today's society, it's so easy to just go, okay, we don't have to rely on each other to eat, and,
Well, and you can get into the blame game. When you get into money, especially, as an example, using Rob and I as an example, when we lost it all, we could have easily said, well, you did this or you didn't do that, because, we ran our perspective aspects of that, our company we had together at the time, and so we could have very easily created big arguments and, really, and it does, when you have no money, especially when you're used to having money, and maybe if you have no money to begin with, it's still really deeply stressful, I don't know, but when you've been affluent, you've had money, and then suddenly you have nothing, it's exceptionally stressful, at least from my personal experience, I thought. So that does and did create arguments, which Rob and I still rarely argue, but it caused that. And we just chose to not let that destroy our relationship. But you were leading into how to clear money clutter.
Right. Because I know a lot of people that I know personally that have broken up, and 50% of it has been money, which is really sad because I feel money is the root of all evil.
Well, money, this is a big, big area for me. I love to talk about this. I consider money to be sacred currency. It's really just a sacred exchange of value. So, we're giving something that we cherish and that means a lot to us, and we're hopefully getting something back that means a lot to us and that we really cherish. Because in the culture and in modern times, and in the vast majority of cultures, we now rely on money, paper or some sort of coins or plastic or just numbers, something, just out there, digital numbers that represent our money. And we have to have that exchange in some way so that we can get the things that we want, let alone just survive. But these negative feelings around it, we start drawing negative energy towards it. But it comes from, a lot of that comes from our belief systems that were put into place when we were kids, the things we were taught by our parents or teachers or whatever. And so all that comes into place. But here's some really fun stuff. I want you, if you think of your money as a stream or a creek running along, it's fluid. It constantly goes, and there's always more coming. Yes, sometimes there's a drought, that's true, and it dries up. But, the intention is that there's always going to be more flowing through. But if you have a bunch of junk lying around, whether it's as an example, using the stream, whether it's plastic bottles or papers and debris in that way, or even if it's been a big storm and there's leaves and sticks and so forth, your stream gets bogged up. It can't go anywhere, and the water becomes stagnant, and the flow has just stopped. So if you think of that as your money, it can't go out anymore, and you're not getting really any more coming in. It's just icky. So when you clear all that clutter away, now it can flow smoothly, and you can get the crystal clear, mountain stream or whatever. So your money can have that feeling. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 things really quickly to clear money clutter. One, the first one that pops into my head that happens to be one of my favorites is get your wallet out and take a good look at it. So a lot of people, and I use so if you don't know who George Costanza is, forgive me, I'm a Seinfeld fan.
I am too. I love George Costanza, and he's one of my favorite characters.
Yep, me too. So think of, if you remember the episode, for any of you out there that don't know, I apologize. Go Google it or YouTube it, whatever. You'll find it, I bet you. But George is, he's at the cafe or whatever, the coffee shop rather, with Jerry, and he pulls out his wallet, and it's just huge, and it's stuffed full of so much stuff, and and Jerry's like, how do you even walk? You've got to be off balance, because it's just gigantic, and then his wallet explodes and stuff goes everywhere. But if you take out your wallet and really take a good look at it, one, does it make you feel good when you look at it? Is it nice looking, or is it torn up and old and ratty? So whether this is a guy or a woman, either way. And then what do you have in there? Do you have a bunch of receipts and junk and crap you don't need anymore? Or do you have it all neat and tidy? So it's really important to clean out the junk you don't need and get rid of those 10 business cards that have been in there for 5 years or whatever. Get rid of that stuff, because what you're doing is you're showing respect for what holds that container that holds your sacred currency. So when you show that respect and you honor that, now you're pouring beautiful energy into it, and you're welcoming more money to come into that sacred space.
Okay, so you're saying get rid of the money, like the old money. Did I hear that right?
No, just the junk. If you've got like old receipts or old, I am going to grab onto what you just said though, but, or if you've got business cards that, I don't know, maybe you were at some event somewhere, or whatever, and somebody gave you their business card, you got 10 of them, you stuffed them in your wallet, and you never did anything else with them, and there they are, like, why are they there? Those types of things. But now I will say that if you have old money that's torn or dirty, unless it has some kind of powerful sentimental value, I would recommend taking it and exchanging it for new money and putting new bills. You go to the bank, if they hear this one's ripped and torn, can I exchange this 5 for a nice crisp bill?
Okay. Nice, clean, fresh money that hasn't had a lot of hands on it. There's not a lot of energy on it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That
Right.
makes sense. Oh, wow. Cool. Well, I've just learned a few things tonight. This is interesting.
Awesome.
Now, you go ahead, please.
No, because I know you were talking about 3 ways to clear it. Did you want any more? Do you want me to go on?
Please do. Go on. Continue.
Another one would be, take a look at any bills that you have lying around. You might be surprised at the ton of people that never even open a bill that comes in the mail. They look at it and they go, I can't pay it, and they shove it into a drawer, they put it on the shelf until they think they might be able to pay it, or next month when the next bill comes again, because now it's late. And I know when I started talking to people about this, I was pretty surprised. But that happens a lot. So open them and make a file folder or find some place that you're willing to look at them and not just toss them off to the side. Deal with them in whatever way that you can, instead of just ignoring them, avoiding them, because you're just putting this negative energy towards them. And that, of course, when you put that energy towards it, that's what's going to it's going to come back that way towards you off of it.
That makes sense.
So that would be the second one. The other one that pops into my head is go to your car. Just go out if you have a vehicle, obviously, go to your car and start going through not the ashtray nowadays, perhaps, but all the little cubby things in the car and the door handle or wherever that we drop change. And put all that change together. Go around your house, maybe the dresser or the washer or dryer, wherever you pull change out of pockets, and put all that money together. Whether you come up with $5 or $50, or I've heard of people that I found checks on their desk that were worth a couple grand that for some reason they hadn't cashed, and put all that money together. And when you have that, then go spend it within the next, I don't know, a couple weeks. It might be gift cards. Maybe you'll find gift cards in your wallet when you clean your wallet out that somebody gave you for your birthday and you never went and did anything with them. So use that because it's putting out that energy and it gets that cycle of, energy flowing again. And maybe if you're hurting for money, then apply that towards one of those bills that you didn't want to pay. I don't care if it's $5, or go spend that $5 or $50 or whatever dollars on something for yourself and make money feel good to you.
That is a really incredible concept. I mean, that's cool. I like that. Right on. My chat room's going nuts. Anytime we talk sex, I did a show a couple of weeks ago on sex, and it was going kind of crazy. So, sex and money. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what you talk about words of wisdom or mantra. Can you maybe explain that just a little bit?
In our book, Inspiring Couples in Business and in Love, we pulled, because we interviewed 22 other couples. So we have 22 other couples' stories, and as we interviewed them and had conversations with them as to how they had succeeded in working together as well as being a couple, then there were all these amazing little tips and words of wisdom that we were like, ooh, and we pulled out, I think, like 5 of our favorites from each couple, as well as, I don't know how many we shared. I have to pull the book, but I think we shared 10 maybe of mine and Rob's together. So that's what we consider words of wisdom. There was just a lot of unique things that...
It was interesting to interview these couples and see, even though they've all been, almost all of them have been very, very successful, there was something at some point at which they, realized this was going to work, or that took them over the hump. And it was fascinating. It was such a good thing to interview these people because I got to learn so much and to, see the love come through as they were talking about it, and you could almost see, most of these were done virtually, but you could feel the energy coming through the computer when they would talk about it, when they talk about each other. And it was really wonderful to experience.
That's awesome. Awesome. I'm trying to see if my audience has any questions, but it looks like the chat room is taken on a kind of a sexy mode, and one guy's going to broadcast naked now. So it's hysterical. I love it. It's great. You know what, though? When you talk about sex, back in the day with my parents, it was like very taboo. We don't talk about things like that. My family was very Roman Catholic and Italian, and we don't talk about that. And, and maybe it's this day and age, but you have to talk about that. You have to be open with each other on what your wants and needs are. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And when we, a few years ago, when we first started, sharing and being interviewed about this, and Rob started writing the Sexy Challenges, we, like I said earlier, we grew up in central Indiana, and so Yeah, we had people that were like, oh my gosh, I think they were ready to burn crosses in our yard. And it's like, wow, you guys don't get it, because what we're talking about is how beautiful it is in your relationship and how sacred it is. And that's what it's about. And then, yes, that sexual energy is, we strongly believe, it is your creative energy. It is your life force energy. And, yep, when you know how to direct the sexual energy in a beautiful and positive way, then you can manifest some amazing things into your life. And the cool part is that if you don't want anybody to know that you're, having this great sex life with your partner that is somehow magically creating these cool things in your life, nobody else has to know but the two of you. It can be your little cool secret. I say inside joke, but it's not a joke. It's very, it's one of your secrets that no one else knows.
Yeah, it's just shared between you and your partner. That's the beautiful part about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little private couple's secret. I like that.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm all out of questions that I wanted to ask you. Obviously, if I had read the book, I would have probably a lot more questions. I'm going to make a plan to read that book that you guys have. And let me just make sure no one's asking any questions. And no questions. Is there anything else you two would like to add to this?
Oh, good grief. We have such a long, we can talk for hours.
I've got another 10 minutes, so if you guys want to talk about it a little more, let's go for it, please.
Well, that's one of the, you hear so often that communication is important in a relationship. It's important in a business. It was one of the big factors in us getting where we are today. Mm-hmm. When we were going through that very struggling time where we didn't have the money to go out and do anything, we spent a lot of time talking about, anything and everything. A lot of spiritual talk, a lot of getting to know each other again. And, that was so very powerful in where we are today. It like started the ball rolling. It was like, I really got to get inside Janelle's head.
Oh my gosh!
And see what she was thinking. And we did it in such a wonderful way. Some nights we would get a cheap bottle of wine. Like I said, at that time we didn't have a lot of money,
right.
And we'd get a cheap bottle of wine, and we would just sit and talk for hours. And we'd look at the clock, and it'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're still having these deep conversations about life and spirituality, about romance, and
Here's the fun part that I love about that too, because we still have. Sometimes we get so wrapped up, we're so busy, we don't have those conversations as often, but we try. And the fun part is that Rob and I don't necessarily have the same views. We have a lot of similar views. But it's so fun for us because even though we work together and we teach, this work, we put this work, if you will, out into the world and we help other people, but we have some different perspectives, especially when it comes to our spiritual views. And we have such great respect for the other ones. I'm really, really passionate and I can get kind of fiery about stuff. But yet at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't mean that I'm exactly right. It might be right for me, as we said earlier, but it's so fun to have that conversation because just because I'm just like, oh, I know this is right for me, doesn't mean that that's the way it is for other beings, other souls.
Right. I have a question coming in, and I don't know if you guys will feel comfortable answering this, but they're asking, how long have you two gone at it, I guess? Like, I don't know how comfortable you, a marathon, I guess.
One of those tantric questions, like, oh, you're going to have an orgasm for so many hours. And
well, I mean, and it's very, it varies, obviously, from time to time.
I don't know that we've ever paid attention to the clock.
I don't think we don't look at the clock and go, oh, that was a 2-hour session.
Yeah,
Something like that. But, the thing I want to tell to your chat room there is that, making love starts early in the morning. I mean, so technically you could say it goes 24/7 because, when I get up, the way I address Janelle and the things I say to her in the morning can have an effect on what we do when we get to that point where we're actually making love. So, as far as that goes, making love is a 24/7 thing.
Yeah, because it's much it's way beyond the physical act.
Right.
It's a lot bigger than that.
Because, I mean, it's like, if, for an example, if Janelle calls me and says, hey, will you stop by the store and get this on your way home, and I totally blow it and forget it, you know, it changes her mindset a little bit. You know, she's like, did you get that stuff that I wanted you to get? I'm like, no. So it changes the dynamic, and that affects our whole life and even our lovemaking. But, you know, and it's vice versa. She wakes up and she gives me a great big kiss in the morning that just sets my heart aflutter. You know, then that changes the dynamic later on in the day.
Well, what was the text I got yesterday? I think I got something from Rob. He texted me and he said something about shower fun. Is there going to be shower fun today? You know, it's just like a different, so then you have this, then it's just out there. There's an anticipation of like, maybe, maybe not, you know. So it's different, you know, it's just those types of things. Of course, you know, my gosh, with the work that we do, we talk about it so often. We're always like talking about it, and we're very touchy-feely people as well. So just in general, you know, I might touch his arm or just whatever. I mean, we're very affectionate, I guess you could say. It might be a better term. But, I can't think what it was, but.
Okay, well that's awesome. I think my chat room is exploding. I haven't seen my chat room explode like this in a long time. So it was great having you two on. Is there anything you want to add before I close up shop?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered a lot, to be honest. And like I said, I know we could talk for hours about all of our stuff. So,
I'd love to answer more questions from the chat room.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see too many more going on. Now we were talking about Viagra earlier. There was a whole Viagra thing going on earlier. It was kind of hilarious.
The Smiling Bob, the commercial from a few years ago, that always popped into my head. Because that makes me happy. But, yeah, I think I would just want to kind of wrap up just saying that, you know, when you are connected to that powerful energy within you, whatever you consider it to be, and however that is for you, when you're connected to that, you have a better idea of who you are, and you are better able to love yourself. And when you have that love and compassion for you, then you can have that love and compassion for your partner and be willing to be vulnerable emotionally, as well as then entering into, you know, the physical sexual realm with your partner.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, you know, to understand that everybody out there that your sexual energy is a living, breathing thing. When you unleash that, when you have great sex with your partner, when you have love and compassion and romance and just friendship with your partner, you release that into the whole world. It's not just something that you two share, because that energy goes out and it affects everything in the world. So, you know, the more that you put out there, the better this world is going to be.
In a loving, committed, our belief is in a committed, loving relationship. We're not saying you have to be married, but we just believe that you need to love your partner. We're not suggesting you go have wild sex with everybody. I just like to clarify.
Well, folks, you guys were awesome, and you got to check the website out. It's www.inbusinessandinlove.com. I've posted it on my radio page. I've posted it on DTM's page. I've posted it on my personal page. Check out the website. I did, and it was very interesting, and I really like how you do the whole, you share with the couples and how they've experienced these things. It's really an insightful website.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you for being on, and hopefully we will have you on again in the future. I'm looking forward to reading your book, and thanks so much for joining me tonight. It was an honor and a pleasure.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys, thanks so much, and good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right, guys. Well, do y'all need a cold shower now? Was that hot or what? Awesome show. Next week, I want to let you all know, you know, usually I do a show on 9/11, about 9/11, but I didn't this time around. The last few years I've been in radio, I have had, I had a fireman on one year. I had my cousin Nikki on talking about it. I didn't say a whole lot this time. I always kind of say the wrong things to people that get upset because I believe that 9/11 was an inside job. But just to let you know, I did lose someone in the Twin Towers. I know I'm changing gears here to something kind of sad, but I did lose someone in the Twin Towers. I didn't know he had passed away until 2 months later when I ran into his mother in a grocery store. And she had told me he had worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. And it was so sad. And because my family's from Brooklyn and Staten Island, it affected me in a very indirect way. Luckily, I didn't really lose a whole lot of family. I did lose a cousin that I wasn't very close to. Nobody was. But I remember the day I was working at a high school and got that phone call. I was here in California, and I was working with a high school with teenagers. And those of you out there who know, there's nothing worse than a worried, neurotic Italian mother, okay? I get this phone call. My mother's calling and says, Linda, yes? Lizzie can't find Nikki, okay? And he was supposed to be working that day at the towers. You know, and I'm sitting here going, what do you want me to do? I have a bunch of teenagers staring at me. Well, I can't freak out. I have to keep my composure. Luckily, my cousin Nicky survived. He was not anywhere near any of the, he was in the first tower, but he had just pulled up in the subway, which ran underneath the towers, and he felt a shaking, and he knew something was going on. He didn't get in the elevator. He actually went outside and took a look at what was going on, then went back inside and bought a disposable camera. To this day, I still have some of those pictures, and some of them are incredibly disturbing. I watched a guy jumping to his death. I mean, he took some very graphic pictures. That day will live in infamy. What I find interesting is when I watched the BBC News that night at 5 o'clock, actually, I was at home. I left work early. We all got dismissed early. I watched the news, and she was broadcasting saying that Building 7 had came down. And I'm looking, and I'm going, Building 7's right behind her. It's not down yet. Then an hour later, I get a phone call from a friend of mine back. He's saying, you're not even going to believe this. I'm near Building 7, and it just exploded, like it imploded. Nothing hit it. It's unexplainable. I don't understand. And I'm just going, it was right then and there I knew that this was not an accident. And if you know anything about Building 7, it held all the Enron files. Remember Enron? I could do a whole show on this conspiracy. In fact, one day I'm going to bring my good friend Arthur Culbertson on, who is a conspiracy nut, and he has his own TV show here in the area called Conspiracy Files. Well, you could talk about this all the time, but I find it very interesting. Before I wrap it up, I do want to go over one thing with you. A couple of days here, I always throw these in. We've got September 16th, 17th, and 18th. This is called a moon phase. It's going to make people crabby and moody, irritating. So go easy on people. This is also an ending and a beginning of life. And because it's in a waning moon, this isn't going to go very well. And I've had snide remarks, well, where the hell is this a terrorist attack? But you know what? Do you watch international news? Because some of you out there are total asshats. If you watch international news, you're going to know. Don't watch Fox. You're not going to get real news. Don't watch MSNBC. You're not going to get real news. You got to watch international news. When you see international news and you see all the crap going down, then you go, aha. Because the stars are universal. It's global, baby. Anyway. Next week, I have an incredible guest on. Her name is Sylvia Schultz. Sylvia Schultz wrote a book called Fractured Spirits, and it's about the Peoria State Hospital. She was on an episode on a show called Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi, and it was called A Prescription for Fear. She's going to be on with me next week as we start our Halloween Fest. And the following week, I will not be here on the 26th, so we will have a repeat of something. I promise you that, and I will return on October 3rd. But next week, Sylvia Schultz, It's going to be awesome. Anyway, all of you out there, have an awesome Friday night. The chat room's still going crazy. I love all of you out there. You make me laugh. I'm so blessed and honored to be at this network and have the fans out there who support me and this network. I couldn't ask for anything more. Light and love to you all. Have an awesome weekend. I'm out of here. Good night.